Let's bring this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Cody, roll call, please.
Supervisor Gunning?
Here.
Treasurer Rice?
Here.
Trustee Hauk?
Here.
Trustee Micus?
Here.
Trustee Lannan?
Here.
Trustee Worley?
Here.
Clerk Cody here.
All right, do we have any adjustments to the agenda that we'd like to make at this time? Or are we approving it as is?
Yeah, did
Were we
we,
gonna move C to like B or something like that? Or no, closed session.
So you're talking about item 14, moving that forward?
I thought we were gonna move C down to the end.
C is at the end.
Like
The new
after-
business.
Move item 10C to the end of the agenda.
After the closed
After
session.
the closed session.
Oh,
Since we have a lot of people here probably for the first item, why don't we do the first item A accordingly, and then go into doing the closed session, and then come back for B and C? Does that make sense?
that makes sense.
yeah, that's what the,
There's no sense,
Suggestion
you know,
was
keeping
I would make-
everyone waiting.
If
So I make
that's
a-
your motion, Norm,
Yeah.
I'd support it.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a support. This will be moving item 14, our closed session, in between item A and B,
Right,
correct?
so it will become, our closed session would be then a B, or just a closed session, and we'll come back in from closed session and do B and C.
yeah.
And that
okay.
way the folks aren't waiting.
Right.
So D will come C, and C will become D. All right. We have a motion and we have a support. Any further discussion? Let's take that up for vote. All in favor of the change of the agenda, moving item 14, closed session, to item B in new business. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor? Motion carries. And that would bring us down to public comment. And this is going to be restricted to 3 minutes regarding items on this agenda. This is an opportunity for comments only. Questions to the board will not be answered at this time. If you'd like to come forward and state your name, please.
My name is Jerry Jelazinski. I'm a county board commissioner from District 3, which is the southeast portion, south central portion of the county. I reside in Chippewa Township. And I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the Conservation District rezoning proposal. We have the MRF in the county, and we do not have space for accepting electronic waste, which has to be collected and held until there's enough volume to make it economically worthwhile for processors to come and get it. I know that from experience, I'm financial secretary for the Shepherd Knights of Columbus, and we have our major fundraiser is a yard sale, and you wouldn't believe the amount of stuff we have to turn down that's electronic because it just won't sell. People want to get rid of their televisions, just a number of items. To do that, we have to pay $20 to $25 a piece to take it to basically a landfill, which it gets landfilled, it doesn't get processed. We have a history in this county of working together to solve problems. I think we have a aerial photography that's probably going to be between this township, the city, and the county, and possibly the tribe. This is the same thing. We have a conservation district that is known for its stewardship of the land. They've been fortunate to get monies from the tribe, from DEQ, for electronic waste and hazardous waste facility. The liquid, which is the most hazardous, the chemicals, they come and go. They're not even stored on site. And there's safety precautions that are taken that so you don't have the contamination. Electronic waste, doesn't pose any kind of hazard to the environment unless it's exposed to the environment. I mean, we all have TVs, and I can tell you from the yard sale stuff, we've accepted stuff, and I've taken it apart. You wouldn't believe these electronic boards are just about everything that we use anymore. Not only the televisions and the copiers and the printers, cell phones, they have electronic boards and food processors and any number of items. And I know that because I've taken these darn things apart and recycled the plastic and anything I could recycle and saved just the boards, and it amassed a couple big containers full. So I ask that the Conservation District in my 42 years in Parks and Recreation has always been a good steward of projects, dealing with Parks and Recreation and dealing with others. And I know that if you approve this, they're going to do a great job. It's going to be a great service to the county, and we're going to have a way to get rid of these electronic boards that we certainly have a desire to have in our homes. Thank you very much. I must leave, so I won't be here for the vote, but I hope to read in the paper tomorrow that it was approved. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, sir. Oh.
Mike Sherba, 1062 Isabella Drive at Lake Isabella. This is pertaining to the special use permit consideration of 2019-04. I think I, along with a number of people within the community, have greatly benefited from what the Isabella County Conservation District has done for us as far as collecting tire recycling and household waste collection, and most recently, just a couple weeks ago, the collection of used electronics. I felt very comfortable leaving materials down with them. I believe they use licensed recyclers and proper disposal of the products that they've accepted from the community. And I think the new facility they're proposing there on Mission Street will be a good location and beneficial to the entire community, not just Union Township, but surrounding areas here. I want to thank you for your anticipated consideration of this project, and I too hope that the project flies. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roger Fuller. I live at 292 South Mission Road, which is directly across where the proposed variance will be located. Today, if you sat at my kitchen table, you'd see agricultural land, deer, sandhills cranes, Canadian geese, turkeys by the dozen, occasional coyotes, not a chain link fence, not a decorated pole barn, and not tire recycling. I think it's fair to say that everybody behind me would agree that this is a facility that Isabella County and Union Township needs. What it needs to be is not in my front yard. This is zoned agricultural. I have here the growth boundary map, which I think we're all familiar with. This particular piece of property lays outside of the buffer zone. And it's hard for me to believe that there aren't pieces of property that are inside the buffer zone where we've permitted such growth to take place. Like I said, nobody's against the facility. We'd all like to see it there. I just don't believe that this is a place for it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Hello, Gail Beadle, 23-year resident of 208 South Mission Road, also directly across the street. I want to clarify a few things from last time, things that have been posted by the Isabella Conservation District, specifically by Crystal Butler. Crystal states that this building would be a preferable view compared to the fairgrounds, well, and salvage yard. As you can see, I only have a few copies. By pictures taken from across, there's little to see. A historic cupola up right at the fairgrounds. These were almost to my mailbox. Fields across the street. To the south, the salvage yard, she said, the cement yard, everything else. That's it, right there, right at the others in you're welcome to see these. So that's north and south, and of course, across the street is beautiful fields. She also states, or, seeing the historic cupola on the tower that's lit with the giant Christmas tree, or star at Christmas. Even with the removal of all the trees, which did not show up on your aerial map that you had before, you were concerned about the farm that would be next to it, planting a tree line. They don't even care what goes in there. You didn't see that all of our trees are now gone, and this is our view, because they're putting up new power lines. She also stated, I already live in a polluted area. I disagree with this. I don't know what's going on with the well. At the last meeting, nobody seemed to know what was going on with that disposal well, and I intend to look into that. I assume it's been abandoned. There's been no activity. A pickup truck pulls in once in a while and apparently checks on the well. That's all I can say. As for the business to the south, I spoke with someone at the salvage yard today. They do accept most of these items, not all. They will take an occasional TV, and this is something that will have to be dealt with along with their scrap stuff. They're recycled. The DEQ monitors them. Talked about operating on bare ground and things like that. The DEQ monitors them and their water. The leaky cars are handled on cement slab. They are disposed of properly with the liquids, which at home, if you're draining something, you can put it in gallon jugs and throw it away. At least they're taking care of it properly. And like I said, they're all monitored. Everything is safe over there. Same thing with the car repair down the street. They're not operating on bare ground. It's one of the cleanest repair shops I've ever seen out there. So it's cement. Yeah, they have a gravel driveway. Whatever. Crystal also states it won't affect the wildlife, and yes, I'm going to go there. Are the geese still going to come and migrate in the field? Get tons of them coming through migration. Are the turkeys going to stay? Are the deer just going to eat their new shrubs and trees that they plant outside of this pole building? We have eagles. We didn't 23 years ago. I never thought I would see one in the wild when I was younger. And to have them fly over my house is amazing. After all this time, my kids see this now. I participate in these programs also. I still strongly believe that this could be relocated into many of the vacant buildings that are in this county. Huge Grover Drive or Grover Parkway, there's huge buildings sitting empty that are already perfect for this. Reuse, repurpose, little recycling jingo. Instead of putting up a brand new building in a piece of land, why not repurpose one of these buildings? We all need this service. I just don't feel we need to take a new piece of property and put that there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ward Forker. I live in Deerfield Township. I've been a resident of Isabella County for over 60 years. I'm in support of the special use permit for the Soil Conservation District. We utilize the services that they offer, and I don't believe that what they propose for this site will be detrimental or something that doesn't look good in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm back. My name is Mike Walton. I'm 4085 East Valley Road. Been there for 20 years. I just want to slow this down for a second. And I just want to ask everybody that's here, does anyone live 500 feet from this proposed facility in this room right now? And if you do, how many are for this? Because here's the deal. It's not in your backyard. That's the bottom line. Do we need a place to collect e-waste? Absolutely. I'm not saying you don't. So at the end of the day here, there's a lot of comments from people that don't live in the neighborhood. Well, everybody has a little bit of skin in the game, but the neighbors have skin in the game. We have collections at CMU. I work there, been there for 22 years. We collect e-waste every year at Central. We have a place for collection. Okay? I was sitting at my house tonight, I just said, hey, Google closest e-waste center. You know what it said? E-recycling center. Answer, Isabella County Recycling in Union Township. 4.7 stars, you're so good at it. What am I missing here? Think about this. So, another question. I've been thinking about this for the last several weeks. And you gotta ask yourself, why is this property is the only property that worked for this grant. Why? You know, I never even seen the grant. Have any of you read it? Probably not. I think we should to make this kind of decision. Is this the best use for this land? It's not just a use here in the next 2 weeks, the next 2 years. When you plant footings and you plant a building, it's there, people. And it's there for the neighbors to see. Because nobody else who lives 500 feet away from it has a look at it. Think about that. Think about the people, when they come home, what they have to look to. And I just wish that you guys would look at our position. I'm not saying that it's not right to have a place. I'm just saying you have places already built to take it at a commercial application. It all comes down to money from the state and the grant system. And at the end of the night, I'd like to know what the appeal process is. I deserve that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure everybody's cognizant of the fact that we try to keep it within 3 minutes, just so we can make sure that everybody has an opportunity.
Hello, my name is David Gilpin. I'm in the 4000 block on Baseline Road. My property is in the back side of this proposed facility. My concern is drainage. I've lived there almost all my life. I've been almost 60 years old now. So I have a good idea where the water flows on this piece of property. And it flows right up almost half of this 4-acre parcel. So my question is, what is the drainage? What is the drainage going to look like in this facility? I really don't want these toxic chemicals. If there is any roof lines, any parking lots, where's this water going to flow? Is it going to flow in my direction because that's the way the water is flowing? So I would take that in consideration. Also, if down the road, is there going to be Union Township water and sewer there? Is there, in that proposal, is that going to be brought up? But I would like to know that. But my concern is the runoff from this facility. Where is it going to go? And I am concerned because my property's on the backside, and it's going to come right to me. Okay? So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you met my cousin. My name's Robert Gilton. I've been here all my life. You guys had shut it down before, this lovely deal. And I really don't care for that building to be on there. That's about it. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nancy Walworth, and I own the Bed and Biscuit Pet Resort on Baseline Road. And we purchased that area because of the nice peaceful area, the wildlife, the birds. I mean, everything that's already been stated. And I can't imagine with that going in behind me that it's not gonna like disrupt everything there. And I think it would be kind of detrimental for my business. You know, it's a peaceful setting. I just found out about this a few minutes ago. I'm pretty upset about it. I just wanted to say my piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emma Fuller. I am at 292 South Mission Road. My husband spoke earlier, but I am directly across from this proposed site. And I do want to say, yes, is this a great idea? Is this a great program that we should have? Absolutely. It'd do wonders for our community. However, do I think this is a site? Absolutely not. My husband and I have worked for years and years to get this piece of property that we absolutely love, and we're raising our two beautiful children. And to have, sorry, I'm passionate about this, so if you hear me quiver, but this is something I'm very passionate about, and my daughters as well, because they're like, Mom, we don't want to look at that. And what makes me scared is when they talked about the hazardous waste cleanup, I said, it'll be okay, they're wearing their hazmat suits when they clean it up and everything. When my girls are riding their bikes on the driveway, if I see those hazmat suit guys running around, what am I gonna do? Run out and grab my kids and pull them inside? Say, oh, but they said it's okay, that's taken care of. I'm not comfortable with that, and I don't think anybody should be. On the other side is, yes, this is a great facility, this is a great program. It should go somewhere else, definitely. I also checked with the Top of the Hill Recycling and asked him what he takes. I took the letter that I got from Union Township here. Everything that is highlighted here is saying that waste that they collect twice a week. This stuff they collect at that recycling center. Everything here that they're collecting is already being collected down the road from me, and down the road that I can't see, which they said I did see, but I don't see. So we do have somewhere for this. To have another facility too, that would be wonderful. And then just another, and I know I only have 3 minutes, so I'm trying to limit this. But for general requirements for special uses per the protocol, it says a special use shall not be hazardous to adjacent property or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment that will be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of persons or property through the excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, odor, fumes, or glare. Just about everything that is mentioned there is on the checklist of what will be going across the street from me that is under the general requirements for a special use, that's not permitted. So please take that into consideration. And again, I know it's been asked of you, but when you go home from work, you want to go home and relax and enjoy your view. If this happens, it's not going to happen to me or my family. Thank you for all of your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Frank Engler. I live in Deerfield Township. I serve on the Isabella Board of Commissioners. I also serve on the Conservation District. I'm on the Recycling Board for the county. Anyways, you know, I've been on the board for about 30 years. It's one of those boards that I often believe that a conservationist is somebody who will get their hands dirty to actually clean up. And a lot of people will talk about it, cleaning the environment, but actually to do the work, it takes a lot of work. We used to be called the Soil and Water Conservation District years ago. Our programs, we're the only one in the county that taps wells, which is a direct line down to the water source. My farm is MEEP verified, which is a Michigan Environmental Assurance Program. We go through the program. Through our district, we've had built hundreds of containment units. We've been doing this for years. Actually, we've been taking collections out at the county fairgrounds, which is just down the road. This is a lot better controlled system where everybody will be contained. We've never had a leak or spill, and if there is something, it's a lot better to have them in a building which is contained and with professionals there to deal with it. It's just a lot better system to do it. We also sell a myriad of trees for windbreaks and everything. We plan to put the trees and use that as an educational program around there. Native grasses, all the trees, so people can understand when we sell our trees that they can do that. It's such an opportunity that we get this amount of money to do this job. As far as using it as hazardous waste or spills or a building that's going to be unsightly. If anything, it'll be an opportunity for people to come in and see what we grow and what we do. It's not going to be a full-time facility. It's just going to be operated twice a week. Right now, the traffic, we only have 1 or 2 a year. If we could do that a little more often, there would be less traffic in there. And we're only doing it down in the fairgrounds anyway, so the traffic is on the same road. As far as doing it in a commercial area, we're talking about having our citizens go into an area where you got trucks moving in, you got business running in, and our collections are not gonna be every day or a big, you know, there's not gonna be constantly 24/7 operation. It's very limited in its scope, so, you know, to have an opportunity like this, like I said, our recycling center cannot handle it in town. Central does have their own recycling, and I think they brought like 3 or 4 pallets to ours out at the fairgrounds the other day. They took in 62,000 pounds of electronic waste, which is stored in the facility inside. When there's enough in there, there's going to be no hazardous waste collected or stored in the facility. Tires, there'll be nothing stored there. That'll be gone the same day we collect it, and those will be under supervised position. So to have an opportunity, like I said, we've been doing this for over 30 years. I'll put my record up, and the board's up for what we've done. We've brought in millions of dollars of grants. Our philosophy is twofold. One is there's 2 ways you can handle problems.
Mr. Engler, if you
Okay.
could, to wrap it up a little bit.
Okay,
Thanks.
real fast, you can either regulation, people will go around regulation, or you can offer cost share, bring them into the education system, make them part of the system, and that's how you get people to believe to do it for recycling and everything, and give them an easy opportunity that doesn't cost them anything. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to say, too, everybody has an opinion, and so I would appreciate it if we respect other people's opinions and we try to hold our chatter down. Okay? Thanks. Anybody else?
John Hamilton, working with the Isabel Conservation District. And I just thought I'd address some of your actual regulations. There have been some things that were said that weren't quite accurate. In the master plan, it has your growth management section, and it states in the introduction that the growth, that you have primary and secondary growth areas designed to concentrate future development closer to Mount Pleasant and to preserve natural features. So this site, as you well know, is just about a half mile from the boundary with the city. And then that secondary growth area is what they define in the master plan as your rural buffer. And this property is in the rural buffer. It isn't in rural preservation. It's in the buffer. And the definition in your master plan is the rural buffer areas generally do not have sewer and water. There's no sewer and water available to the site, and it will be able to be serviced by septic and its own well. But these areas are appropriate for agriculture, low-density residential, and other uses allowed by zoning. This is a special use. And I looked in the zoning ordinance, and I don't find these uses, the public and institutional uses, allowed anywhere by right. Any zone, they're allowed in all the residential areas, plus the agricultural area, and they're all a special use. So there's no way to just go out, as everybody's suggesting, go find another site. They'll be back here asking for permission for a special use permit again, because at least my reading of the ordinance. And it says typically this buffer is located on the fringe between rural and more urbanized areas. And that is where this is, and that's where this is located. The structure itself, I think, is, it fits into a rural area. It's similar to many coal barns. It's a steel building, but it also has a residential flair by having the wainscot that is done with the facade is brick. The other issues that were cited in the recommendation to turn down the application were from the ordinance under the general requirements, and some of these might be a little subjective, but the first one is a special use shall be designed and constructed, operated, and maintained in a manner harmonious with the character of adjacent property in the surrounding area. Well, it's our contention that the proposed building, you know, it's a 60 by 100 building, it's set back 80 feet from the right-of-way, and everybody brought up the fact they want to do plantings to, you know, surround the property. And I live in a similar area, and we have lots of wildlife, even though, there are buildings like ours and other ones around. We get turkeys that come through and deer and too many deer. Anyway, the second one that they brought up was the special use shall not change the essential character of the surrounding area. I think different people have pointed out different things, but we have a junkyard, a salvage yard just south. We have Elmer's ready mix place just south. You have the fairgrounds that are just to the north. So, and this operation will be pretty, the lack of intensity. The allowed uses in this district are daycare, family daycare, and I can't remember the other one, but the family daycare is allowed.
We're a little past the time, so if you could.
I guess I'd just summarize to say that I think that the building is a handsome building. It'll fit into the area, and it'll fit your ordinance and your master plan. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Pete Lorenz, I'm the engineer for the Conservation District working on the project. I guess I'd just like to address the one concern regarding stormwater. You guys are probably all aware, but I guess I'll just bring it to everybody's attention that we will be complying with, if we do move forward with this project, if we are successful, we would be doing a stormwater management plan in accordance with the township ordinance to address any stormwater concerns. Another thing, this site works well for this proposed project, maybe even better than some other residential areas which may be looked into if this site's denied because it's on an all-season route. That's a big thing as far as being able to transport this waste. Once it's collected, it needs to be transported. So that's another positive thing as far as this site goes. And in my own opinion, that's we're not talking about an intense commercial use here. We're talking about a part-time use. It's just my feeling that what better fit in a buffer area could you have than a part-time use building? So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Heidi Gilpin. Own property on 4,000 block of Baseline, which adjoins the backside of this proposed property. Has anybody seen this property when it rains or when there's excessive rain or excessive snow melt? A large portion of this piece of property is flooded and stays flooded or stays with standing water for weeks, if not months. So if it's a 4.3 acre piece of property, I would recommend looking at just how much of that is usable, how many weeks out of the year, because there's a large portion of that that stays flooded for extended periods of time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Carrie Paquette. I'm here on behalf of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe to support the Isabella Conservation District in the variance for the use of this property. The tribe has supported several programs with the Conservation District and has been in partnerships for over a decade on environmental topics. Some of them as far back as like 15 years. We've been working on groundwater protection programs. Since 2012, we've funded household hazardous waste and tire collections. Along with this project specifically, the tribe has given $110,000 and 2% funding towards this project. This is something that is very much needed. The tribe recognizes it. A few years ago, the tribe held one of these collections, just a one-time use, and it was very well used by the whole community, and it wasn't even publicized. So this is a very much needed facility. The tribe is in great support of it. The plans, which I have seen, and the grant, which I have seen, are talking about native plantings, which are going to support wildlife. It's the conservation district, the stormwater management is part of the planning process. I can't say more about an environmental partnership. We have a great one, and it's over a decade long. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Martha Dennis. I live on Valley Road. I have repeatedly called board members and conservation offices. No one can give me information. Everybody would just welcome it next door to them, but unfortunately, I live on a dirt road and they wouldn't put it on a dirt road. That's the kind of feedback I've gotten from the people that I've tried to get information from. We as citizens, we have absolutely no information. We don't know anything about how this thing is going to be built, what kind of regulations are going to be followed, and I don't believe that you even understand that that's a watershed area. There's an awful lot of water passing through there. You're all excited because it is an industrial area. It is an industrial area that should have never been an industrial area. They're filling in the wetlands like mad down there, and nobody's paying attention. Now, I know that when you build these things and you have toxic waste, you have to have clay liners and all kinds of things to follow to protect the water. Now, you're bringing in mercury, you're bringing in fluorescent bulbs, you're bringing in all kinds of things, and you're going to store them on concrete pads. And I'm going to tell you another thing. When this facility is closed, do you think people are going to take their junk back to their garages and back to their basements? No. They're going to dump it up and down Valley Road, and I can guarantee you that's going to be a big problem. I really don't like the evasiveness of this board or the Conservation Department. I've made repeated calls, repeated questions, and I know this thing is going to get ramrodded through no matter how the citizenry feels, because this kind of thing has happened to the citizens of Union Township before. We've got people from townships all over the county thinking it's a great thing to put it in our neighborhood, but who wants it in their neighborhood?
Thank you.
I'm Dave Coyne at Union Township. I'm not talking about what that's been talked about. I'm here on behalf of Pat DePriest. You're going to have a closed session about her, and she's always been very fair with anything I've dealt with her on. When you have an assessor, you don't always agree, but she's always come through and explained everything. She's over the years, I know she's found a lot of taxes that weren't even being paid. I think she's a valuable person to Union Township, and I think you should make sure you keep her. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Crystal Beitler. I work for the Conservation District, and we held our first electronic waste collection a couple weeks ago, and that was funded by Hewlett-Packard, and that was done at the Isabella County Fairgrounds, just a quarter of a mile from the proposed property that we're talking about. 414 cars came to that electronic waste collection. We collected 62,000 pounds. 104 of those cars came from Union Township. And we had approximately 80 some that came from the city. Central, I know it's been discussed, they have their own program, but they brought 6 pallets of electronic waste to our collection. I guess I'd like to clear up a couple things about the household hazardous waste. That is a collection that's done on a Saturday twice a year. It's, we hire a licensed contractor, Drug and Lab from Plainwell, Michigan. And the household hazardous waste is collected, put in drums, put on the truck. Those trucks are gone by 1 o'clock. So the collections happen twice a year from 8 to noon. So nothing would ever be stored in that building. We would not take on that responsibility to store, household hazard waste. We would store electronic waste, TVs, monitors, those kind of things. I know it's been stated that the scrapyard takes those things, but I don't know for sure. I do know that everything they do down there is done on dirt. They don't have big slabs of concrete down there, and they're right, the river's directly behind them. So when it does rain, the antifreeze, all of the contaminants from the crushed cars and all those, that goes right in the river. So I just kind of, I guess, wanted to clear up a couple things about our collections, and just thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Terry Turnwald, 5434 Millbrook, right on the bottom edge of Union. I'd just like to urge your support for this special use permit. And I also like to point out that the location for this thing is really good, that it serves the big population center, but yet is to the far enough north that for the northern residents to reach it without having to drive through town. Wildlife-wise, you know, someday that's going to be a house, pole barn, something on there. So, I mean, someday you're not going to be able to see the wildlife because it's for sale. Something will be built there. And also the hazardous household wastes basically are stored in everybody's houses and basements now. So it's not like it's super hazardous stuff. So I just like to point that out. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
All right.
Doug LaBelle Jr., 955 Meadowbrook Drive. I'm also here to talk about the assessor and the current legal situation that is going on with her. I've been pretty discouraged to hear that the township's considering whether the legal fees for the assessor are going to continue to be covered by the township. I understand the lawsuit is that the assessor is being personally sued. However, she is an employee of the township, and the work that she's being sued for was work-related to the township. So I feel that even though that she's being personally sued, that the township should stand behind her, should defend her, whether she is continued to be employed here or not. This happened while she was employed. It should continue. You guys should continue to support her and defend her. A couple of questions, which I know that you can't answer, but if you decide not to support her, I guess what precedent does that set for the rest of you township employees? Any of you could be sued at any given time and the township would not support you. That would not make me feel very good if I was an employee of the township. And I just would encourage you to really put yourself in her shoes. How would you feel if, as an employee, your employer decided we're not going to cover you anymore? So I'd just like you to leave you with those two thoughts. I think the township should support her. They should defend her, whatever that cost may be to rectify the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Craig Graverett. I represent the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe, resident in Isabella County, and we are a proud supporter of all of our townships and residents within the exterior boundaries of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. I'm here in support of the program because as they've stated in things here, the services that they offer are free to each and every one of the residents that live within Isabella County. The businesses that they talk about that collect the same thing, they're in business. They charge for those items. How many times have these residents actually used those and not used the free service? So I recommend and support the Isabella Conservation District in their efforts in cleaning up our environment and making sure that we have safe areas around. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Walton. I live at 4085 East Valley Road. And I live at the property that's immediately south of the parcel that's being requested for a special use permit. And I just want to say I am not in favor of the special use permit. I don't share the same concerns from the environmental contamination. I work at the university, and frankly, my job is hazardous waste, chemical, radiation, biological. That's what I do for a living. So I have no doubt things can be done safely, or you couldn't allow it anywhere. So my concern is not can it be done safely and properly. My concern is mainly from the proper land use and the growth and the siting of it is what is of concern to me. Obviously, my husband bought the property 20 years ago, and he bought it with his life savings, with the purpose in mind that he was in a buffer zone, and that we knew we were right on the outskirts of where it goes from industrial to farmland. So it is currently zoned agriculture and residential, and so that was obviously with the life savings buying that property, and we to our immediate neighbors and enjoy that. So my concern is I don't support it just only because of the location. That is my only concern, is just turning agricultural land to that use is what my concern is, because I know there's brownfield sites and things that potentially could be a better reuse of the land. So it just hopefully that you take that into consideration, because I agree that I think things can be done well, and I think that the need is there. So we're pro-recycling, and we think it's a great idea. The concern is just literally because it'll be landlocked between houses and farmland. So even though immediately to the south of our property, yes, it is industrial up to where our property starts, but then it is the buffer north, there's a different flavor to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And would anybody else like to come up at this time?
Rhonda Graham, 775 Meadowbrook Drive. I'm just having a hard time understanding the people that have got up that are against this project. I'm hearing my view, my area, I'm just having a hard time when they say, we don't want it in our backyard, but we want it. So what is the difference? Whose backyard would you like it in? They've told you that we have certain roads that we can go on at certain times of the year. They've looked into the empty buildings. They've checked out everything that you have said. They have prints of the buildings that you can see. I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think everybody in the room's had a chance to speak. So that's good. That's a positive. We like that. So at this time, I think we'll close public comment, and we'll move on to item 8, which is reports and board comments. I'm going to start with Mr. Landon tonight.
I don't have any reports or comments right at the moment.
All right. Mr. Mikas.
Hi, Ben. The sidewalk committee didn't meet this month because of holiday, or I should say vacation schedules. So if all things go well, we'll resume our first Monday of the month meeting schedule, the sidewalk committee. I'm passing around the county's recycling report for this fiscal year, October through June. You can see all the curbside recycling and drop-off data. Union Township's there. The tons collected and households served. You can see how that is hovering around 10, 11 tons per month. Last year, the trend was about the same, give or take a portion of a ton. So I just thought I'd share that with you for further review. And I received that report from the Isabella County MRF board.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Mr. Howe.
I don't really have anything to report. I went to the last road commission meeting, the 27th of June. It was a short meeting. They approved just a couple small deals.
they approved replacing the structure, the top part of a bridge. Then they pretty much just, nothing really big, whatever.
Bill, I have a question for you. Have you heard anything at all about the status of the Lincoln Road project, bridge
said
to the
anything.
Broomfield?
Haven't said anything.
Okay. Ms. Rice?
Since the last board meeting, taxes went out. So they were out on the 28th, which was a Friday. So everybody should have them. Simple as that.
All right. Mr. Worley?
I have nothing to report tonight.
Ms. Cody?
City of Mount Pleasant, they sworn new police officer Shane Waskovich. That was the second part of the meeting. They did approve the role in the setting of payments, terms, and special assessment district. They approved the Black Grant Loan Fund Program and approved the resolution on the same thing, and they passed a purchase agreement for the 410 West Broadway.
All right. EDA, we received a presentation on the Jameson Park Master Plan. So our next meeting on the 17th, we'll be reviewing that with the idea of putting together a subcommittee and looking into which portions of that project the ADA would like to fund. That's about it at the EDA. We didn't have a big agenda that night. So I believe we have most of our appointments filled. We do have, I think, an opening. Let's see. Was it the sidewalk or was it the sustainability that had? Didn't we have a opening
Yeah,
on
the
sustainability?
Sustainability Committee, Ben, there is one position open, and
Got a lot of people here.
a lot of people here. Meets quarterly at this time, and the call of the committee is to review issues and advise or make recommendations to the Board of Trustees. Applications are on our website. You could download it, turn it in for our review at future meetings.
Yeah. And then that expiration date on that would be at 12/31 of 2020, by the way. Okay. Moving out of reports and board comments at this point, we move to consent agenda. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda at this time?
I'd make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as is.
Support.
I've had a chance to review all the accounts payable, everything measured up, so everything looked good.
All right. So at this time, we, let's see, do we have a motion and support?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so at this point in time, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda approved. And we move to item 10, new business. Item A is going to be to consider the SUP 2019-04 public and institutional use Isabella County Conservation District.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you had a nice 4th of July. Just to give you some additional background on this, this is final consideration regarding the special use permit application by the Isabella County Conservation District. Is for a public and institutional use located on Mission Road, just south of Baseline, and its purpose is primarily for the operation of an electronic waste recycling facility. All the material relative to this item was on your desk when you came in tonight. The Conservation District is considering purchasing this piece of property. The owner and the applicant have a purchase agreement in place. It's contingent on zoning approval And one of the pieces, there's a couple pieces that will constitute zoning approval, but the first one is approval of or attainment of a special use permit. In addition to the electronic recycling that has been mentioned, that would be occurring according to their application 2 times a week. Some of the district's other programming located currently at the fairgrounds may locate to this facility. Their major programs are their 2 times a year household hazardous waste drop-off, 2 times a year tire recycling pickup, and then they have a tree and shrub sale program. Property is currently vacant. It is zoned agricultural. The future land use map shows this as a rural buffer. Rural buffer is generally appropriate for agricultural, low-density residential, and other uses as allowed by the zoning code. They're often located, these buffers, at the fringes between a more pure rural area and an urban area. A public and institutional use is allowed in the agricultural zone district as a special use, hence the application for this piece of property. If approved and the purchase finalized, contemplating building a 60 by 100 foot building to facilitate their programming needs. There would be a small office space within that building. On June 18th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing for this item. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission heard a presentation from the applicant. They also heard comments from the citizens that attended the meeting. The Planning Commission reviewed the application in accordance with the appropriate sections of the zoning code as is their charge. And the Planning Commission found that the application did not comply with certain sections of the code. They were also concerned about the location as being outside of the growth management boundary. That's a different boundary than the rural buffer zone. So they voted to, I believe the vote was 6-2, to recommend that the Board of Trustees not approve this application. On July 9th, the Township Sustainability Committee met to review this application. And the committee, they saw the Sustainability Committee saw the area, the geography in question, is a mix of residential, agricultural, commercial, and industrial use. Has been mentioned parcels just to the north being owned by Summit Petroleum, and to the south there's industrial and I'd call it light industrial and commercial uses. The Sustainability Committee feels the facility would improve the natural environment of the region by offering a convenient location to recycle old and unwanted electronic appliances and related accessories. The Sustainability Committee does not feel the project is a detriment to the surrounding area, and in the judgment of the committee, it does in fact comply with the requirements of the zoning code. The Sustainability Committee also discussed the household hazardous waste program and feels those environmental risks are minimal, as the program is monitored by the state of Michigan. So the Sustainability Committee recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the special use permit application. Be happy to answer any questions you may have, and it's now for the board to deliberate.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't, well, go ahead.
To start conversation, I'd like to make a motion. And I would make a motion not to support the special use permit application 2019-04 by the Isabella Conservation District for the public and institutional use located at South Mission Road
Second.
for the purpose of operating an electronic waste recycling facility.
Sorry. Second.
Boy, anxious.
I thought it was done.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second. We can have some discussion now. Mr. Houck?
I was just gonna say, I don't really feel real comfortable voting on this tonight. 3:27 today, we got an email on this with all of our information. It was just stated a few minutes ago that it was just put on our desks tonight. This is the first time a lot of us have had a chance to see it. That's just my opinion right now, and the way I feel right now, from what I've heard from the citizens that live in the area, I probably wouldn't support it.
I'm going to piggyback on what Bill said. I've been listening to some very passionate discussion over the last 45 minutes on this project. I guess I'm trying to figure out if this was 18th of June with the Planning Commission, why it took till this afternoon to get any information on this. I walked in the door, I had no concept that we were dealing with something that was going to have a full house. That concerns me, because this is a very important issue for the Conservation District and also for the citizens. And why we weren't given ample time to research and drive the property and maybe knock on a couple of doors. I can't support this.
Can I say something? Well, because I'm on the Planning Commission. I mean, we reviewed everything. I mean, we even asked if this grant is linked to this property, and is not. So, I mean, we did ask that.
What was that?
The grant's not linked to this specific property. We did ask that.
Okay.
And, okay, so we went through our 10 points, and 3 or more of them, 1, 2, and 4 are all no. I mean, some people had more than just the 3. But as far as the Planning Commission, we all agreed to say deny. I mean, it was
6-2.
Yeah.
Well, we heard some very passionate comments tonight, and as my tally is on, we had 11 people in support of this project and 10 people against the project, so it's 50-50. This is a hard one, because I don't think someone's going to come out a winner on this. I think someone's going to walk away feeling that they've lost. I do agree with Bill that I'm concerned that we got this material as late as we did, because something of this magnitude that obviously has so much passion for the folks and effect on their environment, and for the Conservation District to want to make sure that we get rid of the e-waste. There's a lot at stake here. I would have preferred to have more time, too, to go through everything. I was going through this stuff at like 5 o'clock tonight, and that's not the way I do things. I'm, as you know, I tend to be pretty OC with this stuff. Let me just make a few comments that stood out to me. I mean, it's really obvious that we do need to have some type of a recycling facility for the e-waste. E-waste is growing proportionately annually, and it ends up either in landfills, in vacant yards, in our waterways. It contaminates our groundwater. There's a lot of hazards to it. So we do need a facility like this. So I'm in support of having a facility of that type of, that deals with that type of usage, of getting rid of it. We have our recycling program here, which I think is really effective, but it's only done once a year. We're talking about electronic waste that builds up in people's garages and in their houses, on a day-to-day basis. So once a year doesn't quite cut it. What I hear from the Conservation District is that this would allow for the recycling of electronic waste, that they would be handling it and disposing of it in a responsible manner, and that it would eliminate this waste going into our environment. That's a plus. For the folks that live there, because of the 10 tallies against it, were folks that live there, and the effect on, their environment, the effect on their word about the noise, the hours of operation, the traffic, the lighting, the effects. They've talked about groundwater issues, runoff rather. So My sense is that there's a lot at stake in coming up with a diligent decision on this. I would support what Bill was saying, that perhaps we table this until the next meeting, so we've had more time to really review this, because I don't feel myself comfortably to make a decision on this with what's at stake and having to last at the 11th hour getting the material, so.
That was my thought also, is I would maybe ask Mr. Lannon to possibly change his motion. I think that there's been a lot of work put in by, it's not fair for us to number one, have this decision with such short notice.
Mhm.
And I think it's not fair to the sustainability, or the conservation district, it's not fair to the residents in that area. I mean, I want to make an intelligent decision on this. I don't want to, as it is right now, you're put into a spot where I would have to descend, and because I don't know enough.
Yeah.
And I think we need to know more.
Well, we may not always make a decision in this board that's going to be popular with everyone here. It just doesn't work out that way. But the one thing that you can be assured of is that we really try to make the decisions to the best of our ability with the information we have at our disposal. So I would want more time, and I know everyone would like to have an answer to this, and I can appreciate that as well. But I think there's too much at stake, and I would like to review this some more and have some more time for us to deliberate on this and bring it up at the next meeting. I think that would be fair to us as a board. I think it'd be fair to the residents, and I think it'd be fair to the Conservation District folks, because I think there was a lot of passionate pleas tonight that made a lot of sense on both sides. So I think we need to really do our due diligence and make sure we have all the facts. And there were some things that I'm not completely sure of that I'd like to be more sure of before I make a decision.
Who can we go to for questions? I've got some questions.
Make sure you watch the planning commission meeting, because
Yeah.
we asked a lot of questions.
Were there other buildings looked at? Were there other sites that were explored? Can I ask her that?
Can you ask Lisa? She was at the meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Meeting,
Yeah.
they were specifically looking at that one. I mean,
There was no mention of
many
other...
of the public said, hey, can you put it somewhere else? There's this spot, this spot, this spot, this spot. But
Oh.
they didn't really speak to say that they did.
That's just a question I would have.
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned maybe when they came up, that represents the Conservation District, that I think they said that they looked at other buildings, and they looked at other parcels. So, but, yes, sir.
I'd just like to throw out a couple thoughts from my perspective. This went before our planning commission, which is a large board, 12 people approximately, who, that's what they do. They look at these types of issues. They deliberate on them. They bounce them against our master plan. They bounce them against the directives, the ends, the goals that are established by the board. We talk about agricultural land preservation as being very important to the township. The diversification of land is quite varied in our township, and agricultural land we want to preserve because there's just a bit of it on the north side of the township. Typically, I believe this board, most every time, will support what the planning commission has gone through the exercise and vetted to be appropriate or not. Again, the service is absolutely a very important service to have for the region. I do believe there's alternatives as far as locations, probably. I think supporting citizens, supporting their quality of life, supporting their land values is very important. And I do agree that the information brought to us, I have not even took the time to look at. I need to reflect by myself in silence when I read, because I'm a little slow that way. But if there was a vote before us, and there is a motion on the table, I would consider the full board, directing me if there's a unanimous group to rescind my motion. I could table it, but there is a motion, and I would be supporting the decision of the Planning Commission.
All right.
I saw this item on our agenda when the electronic packet was sent out to us. We knew the item was on the agenda for tonight. I would not be in favor of delaying the vote. Our citizens on both sides of the issue took a lot of effort to come here and speak. The data that we have in front of us shows the proposed a preliminary site plan with setback, and we see its location and the packet of information in front of us as it relates to the stretch of the South Mission Road, homes across the street. We've heard people talk about property values and some potential impact on that, and we see all the other uses in the area. And we've heard our citizens here, and you've gotten all the other, the cover letter is very significantly and I think appropriately describes the situation of facts as well presented by the manager. So I don't see any need to delay the vote. And I'm hearing how there's expression of this board for and how you're how you're landing on the issue. So I don't really see any need to postpone it, because it would really cause more harm to the citizens to postpone a decision.
I never made a motion to postpone it, which you know that. But just based on the facts that I've heard tonight, listening to people, I'm not in favor of it.
I guess everybody spoke but me. I understand e-waste is very important. Myself personally, though, I would be worried having an e-waste right next to agricultural. I mean, there's lead, there's antimony, I don't know how things are going to be stored. I haven't been able to read it, we just got this. So, there's a lot of people that are out here tonight, and we have a planning commission, like Tim said, that's what they do. They look at this kind of thing. And it was a 6-2 vote. I mean, if it was really close, maybe it would be different. But, I mean, it was almost unanimous not to approve this. And that's just how I feel. That's how I'm leaning toward, so.
We still have to go over the 10 steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I was just asking, though.
Yeah.
Don't we do?
My last word is going to be that I would have liked to have put some due diligence into this item. I don't know why, when, or how. I know Mr. Micus, because of sustainability, probably had been presented this, a week or two ago, so he's got a little bit more of a heads up.
Clarification, it was yesterday.
Yesterday.
The Sustainability Committee met yesterday.
You got 24 hours on us. So I understand everybody's points. This is something that affects a lot of people, but I just feel really bad that we didn't have the opportunity to give these folks the due diligence of making a respectful, intelligent decision on this matter. And so that's where I have a big problem. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to vote on this, or for that matter, if I'm going to vote.
You have to vote.
We need to go
You
through the
can't, you
criteria.
can't.
I mean, it's a great project.
It's a
I
great
mean, We all
project.
agree to that,
Yeah.
even on the planning
Yeah.
commission. It is
Yeah.
a great project. It just did not fit this area. It didn't go with the master
I
plan.
would have loved to have had the opportunity to get into my car and drive out to that area. I'm very familiar with it. But again, I would have liked to have had the opportunity to have driven out there, taken a look at it. I respect the planning commission. I've nominated most of those people. And I respect the decisions made on the planning commission. But we're being asked to finalize their decision. I think they had a better luxury of heads up than we did. So again, I don't know whose responsibility it was to get this to us, and why it took such a long time, considering it was the 18th when this was in front of the planning commission. We got the electronic version of this last week, but we received this afternoon. I had no opportunity. I looked at it at 5:30. I mean, I had no concept when I walked in the room that we were dealing with something that had this much levity, so.
Well, I think what we're talking about is that this is an atypical manner in which this board is deliberating on the information. One thing that I've been very impressed with each and every one of you is the manner in which the time and the diligence of looking at the material, driving by the sites, talking to people, asking questions, etc. That's what's missing for me tonight. We usually do support the planning commission, you know, in terms of their decisions. I think in something this controversial, I would definitely lean with the citizens in this regard. But again, I want to emphasize the need for the e-waste facility. It can't be overly prioritized. We need it soon, and but I guess it's where does it go? There are a lot of empty buildings. I don't know. I think what turned it for me was Lisa said that the grant isn't attached to the property, so the grant can be applied to another facility, another site, where maybe this would be more suitable in terms of the distribution and the storage and recycling of this type of waste. So I just, again, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but it just would have been nice to have more time, because I think this is an atypical way of us handling material tonight. And I think both sides deserve that, you know.
What I can share with you is the stretch of property north from baseline, heading south towards what we've been working with the city of Isabella area, what referred to as Dogtown, but there is virtually on the east side of the road from the corner of North Mission and Baseline, virtually nothing but open field with some forestation, greenery, and then you, first thing you'd come to as you're going south, and that's getting quite a ways south, is a trailer that seems to be advertising some sort of business. And then you would get to what was the cement factory, Elmer Cement Factory. And it's, the full road frontage is greenage. A quarter mile deep or further is field. I think the first house you might see down Baseline to the east is going to be just before the rise of the overpass over the freeway. It's a vast expanse of undeveloped rural agricultural land. I am knowledgeable about the standing water out in that area, so I don't know if it's low or if it's clay or if it's what, but heading out of town Thursday on the 4th of July. I know on the west side of the road, directly across, there's standing water. The field, I can't say there was standing water, but during the seasons of thaw and rain, it is a very wet area. Does that impact? I'm sure it does. Water migration, and it would flow towards the river that's east behind the cement plant. I think there's really no options for the residents, but there's probably numerous options for the conservation district folks to consider and select a site that would not, in my mind, stand out as development in quite a vast green area in our township. Other thing may be, it's a fairly busy road. I'm not really concerned about traffic count, but during the 1 to 2 days a week that it'd be operational, you're gonna have an impact in people turning off of Mission and getting back onto Mission, which would probably negatively impact the flow of traffic in that area.
All right.
A few comments, observations.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Any further? Okay. All right, so at this point in time, we need to go to our general requirements for special use. And I will be starting with Ms. Rice, working my way through Mr. Land and picking up Mr. Worley back this direction. Item 1. The special use shall be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in a manner harmonious with the character of adjacent property and the surrounding area.
As stated, it's, agricultural and it would not fit in, so.
I don't think it's harmonious with the surrounding area.
Outside of the houses across the street, which moved out into the country, it's a barn that could go into an agricultural area. So to say that its use, it's going to be designed and constructed and operated in a manner that is harmonious with the adjacent property. When you look at what adjacent means, it's that stretch of the road in that area. So I say yes to that one.
Mr. Lennon?
Notification goes out to people within, I believe, 300 foot of the affected property. I don't think it's harmonious in that demographics of distance.
I say no, because it's not harmonious in terms of its use, is not harmonious with the existing area.
I say no.
I'm kind of halfway between on this. You go to the south and slight distance and you have a salvage yard and a cement plant, and so, but I think looking at the residents and the usage in that area, as Mr. Landon said, the 300 feet, I would have to say probably that within that area, I would say no. The special use shall not change the essential character of the surrounding area.
I feel this would change the character of the surrounding area.
I feel it would also change the character of the surrounding area. I thought I heard earlier that there was gonna be a chain link fence around it. I go by that property every day. I always like looking over to that side to see if deer are crossing the road. I think it'll change the character of the area.
Character is an interesting word, but as is change, and indeed, it will change the area as any addition or subtraction of structures do. You know, when houses were built there, it changed the character of the area. So I have to say, it will change the character of the area.
I believe it will.
I think it will change the essential character of the area. Adversely, at least we heard 10 comments to speak to that tonight.
I believe it will.
Well, I remember a comment that Mr. Turnwald had made is that, you know, eventually that property is for sale, something's gonna go in there. Do I believe that this particular facility will change the nature and character of the surrounding area, I think, to the residents that live across the street? Yeah, I think it will. Item 3, the special use shall not interfere with the general enjoyment of adjacent property.
We had several people say that it would affect and interfere with their enjoyment. So,
I think it will interfere with the general enjoyment of the area.
My interpretation of the words is that the location wouldn't interfere with enjoyment of the area. That is an interpretation. Perhaps the shoes I'm wearing would interfere with someone's enjoyment of the area where I'm standing. And you know, you might say, Phil, you're being silly, but it's not. I think that it's a judgment being made by some individuals, and certainly I wouldn't want it across the street from my house. I wouldn't want it, but will it interfere with me enjoying my property? It's not for me to answer because it's not there, but I'm going to say to this question, it doesn't interfere with the general enjoyment of the adjacent property.
I'd say we have many senses: sight, vision, hearing, well-being, the feeling of well-being. I think it impact the general enjoyment of the area on all those accounts. I think there'd be increased noise. I think there'd be visual obstruction to what is currently there, impediment of possible continued of animals, eagles, things coming to that area, making some of the things that would benefit travelers to this area, of course. The comments you hear about, you know, the eagles that are coming to this area. Due west of my house in Union Township, 2 miles, is an eagle's nest that's been occupied for 4 years anyways, I'm aware of. Eagles right off the freeway in Rosebush area. That's a terrific area for wildlife. So on many accounts, from a humanistic appreciation beyond commercial, you know, I think it detracts greatly.
Whereas it's subjective in terms of, you know, one's enjoyment of the area, I do think that it would interfere for many people because there's an objective quality too, which we heard tonight, that had to do with the wildlife, with the rural area, with the peace and quality. So I say yes, that it would interfere with the general enjoyment of the area.
I say yes. Oh, well.
Yeah, we've heard tonight quite a bit of information on what people that live in that area like to look across the street and see wildlife. And, we generally look at this if what we're hearing is true about a lot of standing water, and then you wonder how conducive that piece of property is to any development at all. I would have to say, yes, it would interfere. For the special use shall not be hazardous to adjacent property or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment that will be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of persons or property through excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, odor, fumes, or glare.
Not knowing how these things are going to be stored, with the standing water and everything, possibility of, lead or things leaking, if handled improperly, noise. It, in my opinion, would be hazardous, so.
There will be an increase of traffic, there will be increased noise. That's my opinion.
Mr. Mikus?
We're on item 4, and regarding hazards, the twice-a-year collection of the household hazardous waste that we all have in our house and garage, and will be collected on a 6-inch concrete pad that's like 60 feet by 60 feet. And the DL, Drug and Lab Crew, will be there to pick up any 6 ounces or 12 ounces of liquid if there was to spill. There hasn't been a spill historically at the many, many collections conducted there. Water table, there may be standing water there at time, but a building isn't going to be built on this on the terrain that's there. There's the site preparation and grading and all of those stormwater issues that are addressed. So certainly there'll be some additional traffic. That's what you get with growth. And so I don't see it being hazardous to the adjacent properties.
Speaking of something I experienced today, I'm going to assume a number of people will be trailering in items. So security of the items on the trailer is a real issue. I was coming home from the north today on rural state highways, paved roads, but I noticed the guy had stopped at the intersection, and I see why he did. Somebody had lost a piece of firewood, about a quarter chunk of a piece of tree laying in the road. And I'm thinking, boy, that guy may be changing the course of somebody's life, probably a motorcyclist or something, by taking the time to stop and take that piece of wood off the road. So, lots of trailers coming in, stuff falls off trailers. I think that could be an increased hazard in that area. Somebody lose something and actually result into a traffic hazard for someone else.
I would believe that the Conservation District would make all the adequate efforts to make sure that everything was handled responsibly and safely. I have no doubt about that. There's also state and federal regulations regarding the, working with this type of produce. There are some things, though, that can't be necessarily eliminated, you know? I mean, it might be the noise, it might be the traffic. I think if this were to go to the PC, the PC were to had to have approved it, and this would have gone to a site plan review, many of these things could have been dealt with through screening, you know, through lighting, down shielding, things like that, you know, access to the road, et cetera. So my feeling is that I'd say no to that, because I think all these things could be addressed for the most part.
I think maybe the traffic and the noise. I mean, as far as toxic chemicals and stuff like that, that's all non-existent. Like, I mean, it is being taken care of.
You know, we've got some things that could be an issue for people across the street, the traffic, a little increase in traffic, that is a busy road. Maybe some noise. As far as the chemicals and things of that nature, you know, this is gonna be, when they're bringing, like Mr. Mikas has said, the safeguards in place certainly are gonna, the protocol in place is gonna be, sufficient. Everything's gonna be built to some type of a code that if there is a spill, that it is contained. So I don't see that as much of an issue as the traffic possibly and the noise. But, you know, the county fair is right down the street, and that's got a lot of traffic and a lot of noise. So I'm gonna say no. The special use shall be adequately served by essential public facilities and services, or it shall be demonstrated that the person responsible for the proposed special use shall be able to continually provide adequate services and facilities deemed essential to the special use under consideration. The said facilities or services shall be approved by the Central Michigan District Health Department.
Yes.
They will be addressed.
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure about water and wastewater out in that area. Fire hydrants out in that area. But I'm going to assume that all rules and regulations and site plan reviews would be such that it would be adequate.
I think so, too.
Yes.
Okay, I will say yes to that one also. When deemed necessary by the Township Board or Planning Commission, the use shall be adequately screened by distance and landscaping to protect the rights of all adjoining property.
Absolutely.
That's been addressed. Mr. Turnwald and Mr. Engler both said that there would be screening.
Yep.
Well, that, again, would be handled through the site review, if it should get to that point.
Screening does, you know, so much. Where I happen to live was half mile down the road from institutional facility, and I was woken up many mornings at 4 o'clock by slamming dumpsters. And there's significant old growth woods between me and that location. It didn't seem to slow down noise. So screening helps visually. It does probably help with some noise, but I think the requirements for screening certainly doesn't take away the nuisances.
Well, I like that that was being offered voluntarily, because sometimes we end up having to struggle to get these types of items into our site plan review. I was impressed with the fact that they're talking about, you know, native species, bringing native plants in and trees, et cetera. And I think that also is very congruent with the Saginaw Chippewa tribe in terms of the way they see the nature and the environment. And I think it also coincides with us as a board because we are environmentally conscious, you know. Again, what makes this decision so difficult because we support the premise, but we're having difficulty with the fitting it in that spot.
Right.
So the answer would be yes to that.
It's kind of waiting on that. All right, so, you know, again, that's something that if it is to that point, the planning commission would certainly be looking at the landscaping and the screening.
Oh, you got it.
Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I said yeah.
That's what
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I thought you answered.
Sorry, I missed it.
And so I think that would be addressed, but to be frank with you, I think that the screening requirements, particularly for a new structure with small little pine trees, in a lot of cases isn't very adequate. So I'll say yes on that one. The Township Board or Planning Commission, in connection with approval of any application, may require reasonable undertaking by the applicant to guarantee and assure by agreement, including a performance bond, to be posted by the applicant or by some other reasonable surety arrangement at appropriate stages of the plan development, that the development will be executed in accordance with the approved plan.
Yes.
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 Wow.
That such use will be an asset to the township.
There's no denying, I mean, it would be an asset. I just, you know, it's the location.
I agree with Kim. It's an asset, but where should it be an asset at?
Yes, it would be an asset to the township.
Yeah, I believe it'd be an asset to the region.
Again, being able to get rid of the accumulated e-waste would be an asset to any community. But I agree with Kim, has to do with location that we're having struggles with.
Yes.
I concur. Location probably is the biggest question mark on this. Requirements and conditions of each individual special use permitted shall be complied with unless otherwise mentioned within this section.
Yes.
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 Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 10, any special use permit may be revoked by the Union Township Board upon recommendation of the Union Township Planning Commission whenever the operation fails to comply with any of the required conditions or may be subject to the penalties of this ordinance. A, approval of a special use permit shall be valid regardless of change of ownership, provided that all terms and conditions of the permit are met by any subsequent owner. B, in instances where development authorized by special use permit has not commenced within 1 year from the date of issuance, the permit may be reconsidered and/or voided at a regularly called meeting of the Planning Commission.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, those are our regulations and rules.
That's why I put a lot of faith in support in the planning commission and their denial of this. They're the ones that can recommend removal of the special use so that facility could be built and that use could go away, therefore that operation could go away. And that would be a unfortunate investment of taxpayers' state grant dollars. And so, yes.
I say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, do we need to cover Q on this? Or do we just need to read Q? Public and institutional uses.
I don't think we have to
think we
do
have.
that. I think
Read
we-
it.
we-
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Read it.
Okay. All right. So, I would assume we probably want to do a roll call on this.
No, you gotta read Q.
Okay, read Q, okay.
Yes.
All right. So Q, public and institutional uses provided. 1, they are located within Ag R1, R2A, R2B, and R3 districts. that such use will be in conformity with the character of the adjacent neighborhood, and they are essential to service the neighborhood or community, and cannot feasibly be located in a zone where they would otherwise be permitted. The Planning Commission shall establish requirements for setback, lot size, side yard, parking, screening, and other conditions necessary to conform the same to the character of the adjacent neighborhood. 3, entrance and exits as specified in section 30.4.B.2. And 4, driveways and parking areas as specified in section 30.4.B.2.
So as far as 2, I believe it's a no on the 2 because it's not with the character of the adjacent neighborhood and then service the community. Wow, but as far as 1, 3, 4 is, yeah. You want to, does everybody agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we do have a motion on the table. This would be to deny the special use. We have a second?
I second it.
So this would be a vote to...
Do a roll
We have
call.
further discussion.
Yeah.
We have- okay.
Is there any further discussion?
The only thing I would like to say is that in some way, this reminds me a little bit of the decision we had to make with the road commission wanting to expand their facility or actually build a new facility. And we had a lot of, feedback from the residents in that area because, again, they felt it was incongruent with their neighborhood, and it was very similar to some of the things the folks are saying here. We supported the fact that we saw the road commission needing to build a new facility. We were in support of that, but it was the location where we had the problem, so it was denied. But the road commission went back and they're looking at other options to actually work on site, and they bought the place next door to them, which is like I think an auto dealership or something like that. So they're looking to expand. They found an option. So what I would want to encourage is that, if we are going to be denying this, is that we still are very supportive of getting an e-waste facility in our township. To me, that would be a tremendous asset. And so what I would really want to emphasize for the conservation district is just to go back and find maybe some other locations where this could fit more appropriately and with less controversy, because I for sure would be voting in favor of that, like we did with the road commission, to build their facility. So just wanted to say that because it has a lot of the same flavor to me as what we went through recently.
All right. Further discussion?
Do it as roll call, though.
I would just mention that, fortunate for this township, we didn't have to take up the issue of wind turbines. Can you imagine what the townships that were doing that
Yeah.
was with? And but it's not out of the question that before us could possibly come the county wanting to purchase 30 acres right there for a jail. That's a wide open
Yes.
piece of land.
Yes.
So it may not be, it's open land, so people will want to develop along that heavily traveled corridor.
We're not gonna make everybody happy here. We all know that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, sharing your opinions.
All right.
Ready?
Good?
Supervisor Gunning?
No.
Clear.
Right.
Okay.
The
Could
motion.
we read the motion again?
Yeah, read the motion again. The motion
Or
was...
I'll reiterate
was
it if
to-
you'd like me to.
Okay, well, your motion was to deny.
My motion was to not support the special use permit
All right, okay.
application 2019-04 by the Isabella Conservation District for the public and institutional use located at South Mission Road for the purpose of operating an electronic waste recycling facility.
Okay. All right, so I'd be supporting.
So a
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
a yes
I'd be
vote
supporting
means
Mr.
do
Lannon.
not, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll go yes.
So you're a yes?
With
yes.
Mr. Lannon's
Yes, you
support,
would
Mr.
not.
Lannon's, yes.
Yes, okay. Treasurer Rice?
Yes.
Trustee,
Yes, I support the denial.
Trustee Mikas?
You know, I had a lot of, I had a look at this, and I supported the recommendation from the Sustainability Committee to this board to approve the special use permit or overrule the Planning Commission. And Trustee Lannon pointed out some good things that helped me change my mind, in that sitting here as a township trustee, I have a different perspective. When I was sitting here yesterday as a sustainability committee member, I had a different perspective. And so tonight, I'm going to vote in support of Mr. Lannon's motion to not approve the special use request.
Okay. Trustee Lannon?
Yes.
Trustee Willie?
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes?
Okay, unanimous. The special use request has been denied. And at this point, we move to
Thanks, everyone,
item B.
for coming out
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to item B, which is closed session. So we're going to need to make a motion to go to closed session. This is to review attorney-client privilege communication with Township Legal Counsel.
Mark,
This one? Yeah, okay.
Lisa has it in front of her.
I got it, yeah, I just printed it out. Okay. I make a motion that we meet in closed session under Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act to consider written material from township attorney that is exempt from disclosure of Section 13(1)G of Freedom of Information Act.
Support.
Okay, and then we
See you
do
later, Dave.
roll call.
Yep. Yes.
Supervisor Gunning, Treasurer Rice?
Yes.
Trustee Hauk?
Yes.
Trustee Mikas?
Yes.
Trustee Lannon?
Cody.
Yes.
Trustee Worley?
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes?